black and white world, and then we add culture to it, and that gives everything color. And then you see different colors with different, some people are very colorful, some people are kind of drab, you know,
Right.
and everything in between. And it's sort of how you present culture. I think one reason I'm interested in it is because I grew up, I was taught this culture, U.S. culture, whatever you want to call it, by parents that didn't really understand it. That
Right.
They were translating it to me.
Exactly.
And so
Things get lost in translation.
Yeah. And so when I got out and around peers and other people to where I had to like model this thing, then I realized how very thin and superficial my understanding of it was. Of course, at the time I didn't know that's what was going on. I just knew it's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to sit like this and say this, but I don't know why.
Right.
And
Right.
if the situation changes just a little bit from what I expected, I don't know how to compensate for that. So it just, I started observing that just so I could know what to do.
Right.
So like I'll watch
Right.
you and I'll just ape what you're doing.
Yeah.
And from that, I became very conscious of how people are and how they do things and, you know, stuff like that. I wouldn't have noticed that otherwise, I don't think.
I work with 2-year-olds every day. So
Yeah.
I think about this stuff all the time. I think about them all the time and how they're experiencing these things that are going to change their entire
Yeah.
world, lives, perceptions of everything. I think about the way that I talk to them, the way that I think about it a lot, probably more than my coworkers do. But it's very interesting to me because I think a lot about myself as a 2-year-old and what I lacked or had as a 2-year-old and what my understanding was then that led to the way I think about things now. But
You
yeah.
remember being a 2-year-old?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure a lot happened.
It's like, really?
I remember being 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely remember being 3. But just because I don't remember being a 2-year-old doesn't mean I didn't experience
Yeah.
crucial things when I was a 2-year-old.
Well, yeah.
That still carry on to the person I am today. So
I've had some friends who claim to be able to remember, like, I remember when I was 3 and at my birthday party I wore blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
yeah, what? I remember being 3 very clearly.
really?
Very clearly.
What about that was so
I remember talking to my parents a lot when I was 3, the conversations I would have with them. I remember being picked up as a child a lot. I remember my room. I remember I had a snow globe. I remember I loved broccoli.
Is she lying? Or?
No, I'm serious. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that I was very interested in adults. It's
Uh-huh.
little things like that that I still think about. I obviously don't remember day by day. I remember when my mom was pregnant with my younger brother. That's probably why I do. It's because that was a big deal, that my mom was pregnant. Not that it matters.
I'm trying to just get some vague grasp of where you're at when you're 3. Like, I don't...
3 is a very important age.
You're just starting to talk, right? Or do you talk before that?
You talk when you're 2. You understand a lot when you're 2. You're talking, but you're not really making sentences, but you have words, and you're starting to formulate sentences. By the time you're 3, you're vocalizing your emotions. You're vocalizing when you're questioning why you need to do something that someone's telling you to do. You start saying why a lot. You start asking why this, why
Yeah.
that.
I do remember, oddly, right before I could talk, I remember thinking I was talking and no one would understand me, and it was really frustrating. I'd be like,
I don't remember that
and
at
I
all.
would,
I mean, I remember that because of language barrier, but
Yeah.
I don't remember, because kids, kids that I work with, they talk to me with anger sometimes. Like, they talk to me like, you need to understand this. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. And I feel so bad because I'm like, they're trying to communicate something important to me.
Yeah.
And I just can't understand them because it's baby bladder. Like, I don't understand what they're saying.
I guess that's part of it's the impetus to learn that stuff is the frustration. Like, I've got stuff to say,
But then
I don't know how to do
their
it.
parents come in and their parents know what they're saying. So it's like, it sounds like blabber and stuff to you, but
Yeah,
I guess once you're around it long enough, you just start to understand it.
maybe.
I remember not being understood when I was learning English. I do remember that. I do remember one time I was trying to say, I need to go to the bathroom. Like, take me to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom. And they were just looking at me like, what are you saying? And so I had an accident. Like that's probably the most significant thing I remember as a child. Is like, why don't you understand me? Yeah.
It's your fault. No,
Yeah, like I'm
I
trying to
told you.
communicate. Yeah.
You were not listening.
Yeah.
Not listening properly. You weren't hearing what I was saying. Well, so language is definitely important.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a linguistics major, so
Oh, well,
definitely important to me.
if you'd said that, I would know.
Conversation would have made sense. Yeah, no.
Yeah. No,
For
I
sure.
just,
It's really important to
I
me.
think it's really important.
It's really,
A
really
linguistics
important to
major.
me.
So what does that mean? What do
Can
you
mean a
study?
lot of different things. I became interested in it through the study of indigenous languages.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I
Ah.
became interested in it. And then from then on, it spurred on to all these different things that you can do with a linguistics major. Like you can do ESL, you can do speech pathology, you can teach English, you can teach Spanish, there's so many things that you can do with it. For me, I know that at some point I want to study language, a specific language,
Uh-huh.
or I want to be exposed to an indigenous language and have to write about it, talk about it, try to figure it out, try to put it into understanding that other people get. But I'm really interested in speech pathology. That's interesting to me. But at an ESL level, because there's a lack of bilingual speech pathologists. And so, sometimes speech pathologists that don't speak, for let's say it's a Spanish speaker, they can't tell whether the speech problem is a language barrier or if it's a speech problem, like a development issue.
Oh, I see.
And that happens a lot. So, yeah.
Well, I have been trying for the last, I won't even say how long, to learn Lakota because my ex is Lakota and she speaks it and her family speaks it.
Wow.
And so it's not easy.
I think
It's a tough language.
I think the reason indigenous languages interest me is because a lot of them are not learned in like a classroom, or
Yeah.
they're learned from I hear you talk, I repeat what you say
Yeah.
until we make sense to each other, and it's passed on and passed on and passed on. That's why indigenous languages are dying, because a lot of them are not documented. A lot of them don't have alphabets. A lot of them have never been written down. So when a lot of the new, because of colonization, obviously, the new generations don't want to learn the indigenous languages.
Right.
So they're dying out at a very quick rate. And that's,
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a very, very good book called The Linguist, and it's exactly about that.
That's the only word you've said so far that sounds like you have an accent. Indigenous. Because most people in the U.S. say indigenous, and you're saying
I
indigenous?
have an accent. It comes out
Indigenous?
sometimes, and it makes
Really?
me really self-conscious.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, not like that. Because I know you're not doing it in that way. But when I feel myself having an accent, I like go into my shell. Like it really.
Really?
Yeah. Because
But it's kind of cool, though.
it is cool. It
Accents are
shouldn't
cool.
make me that way. I should embrace it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely comes out sometimes. Especially when I'm talking really fast and I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. It's like I'm learning English all over again. It just doesn't make any sense.
Now I've screwed you up for the entire rest of the show.
Yeah,
You're going to be
yeah,
like,
now you're
I will only speak like this. And very close.
like for example, the word world
World?
is hard. It's hard. It's hard for me to say it. If when I'm talking really fast sometimes, it sounds like
World.
world. The hardest one is warm and worm.
Worm?
Those get mixed up when I'm talking in a sentence.
Hmm.
Something with W's went wrong when I was a kid, apparently. I don't know.
Wah.
Wah. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually discovered that I have an accent when I'm tired.
When you're tired.
Yeah.
Really.
And I'm trying to talk and I'm just sort of going.
So,
and it's
if
like-
you think
and it
about
just
that, though,
starts-
does that mean that we're constantly fighting our accents?
Yeah.
And then when we don't have the energy or the time to fight it off, it comes out?
Throughout most of my life, people could not tell where I was from. I had taught myself to speak listening to news people, people on TV. So I developed this sort of generic American accent. And I mostly still have that. I've got some Midwestern
Influence,
overtones
yeah.
now because of so many years of talking to people around here. But I can remember I did a lot of traveling. Throughout most of my life, I traveled. I was a musician and I traveled to different places. So people were always like, well, where are you from? And I'm like, what do you mean?
So
Can't you tell? And they're like,
it's actually interesting because it helps me understand something I've been wondering is Hispanics have trouble understanding where I'm from. They have no clue. They're like, something's weird about your accent. Where are you from? You sound so fancy when you speak in Spanish. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's the way that I learned Spanish, if it's...
Is it a Costa Rican thing? I mean, that's got to be different from, say,
Kind of,
Mexican.
but my family that comes to visit, they have an accent that I don't have.
Oh.
My Spanish is almost like I'm reading a book out loud.
Very formal?
It's very like, and that bothers me.
Bienvenidos.
It's very like, yeah, like it doesn't.
Por favor.
Yeah, like, because I don't know why that is. I mean, I've talked about it with my parents, and they're like, no, just, your mom and I both speak pretty formally, so that's probably why. But it makes me wonder if there's something more to it than that. I never learned Spanish from a book, so that is confusing, but I do sound like I'm very serious. My personality is different to me a little bit in Spanish than it is in English. Like there's humor and there's knowledge and there's emotions that get lost whenever I speak in Spanish.
Oh,
and I'm not sure if that's because I only speak Spanish with my mom and dad, and there's things that I want to hide with them. Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm saying?
So you have a layer between you and them of this is how I'm when I'm with my friends, but I've got to hide that or disguise that a little bit.
In Spanish, when I lie, I talk really, really, really fast, and I make no sense. And I don't do that in English.
Okay.
In English, when I lie, it just sounds like I'm.
Keep that in mind.
It just sounds like.
Hey.
Yeah.
You said that awfully fast. What's up with that?
I can sense differences, and sometimes it's been happening to me a lot, but I'll be talking in Spanish and I'll just forget what I'm saying. It's almost like my brain has to like work a little bit harder when it comes to Spanish, and I want it to eventually not be like that. But
you just have to do it all the time, I think.
I need to do it more. I need to not be able to fall back on English so that I have to use Spanish so that... Because the thing is, a lot of times I'll be talking to someone and I'm like, I feel like I need to use this word. And then I hear my parents say it and I'm like, I know that word. Why doesn't that word come to me when I'm speaking in Spanish? And they say the same thing happens to them in English. So, yeah.
Strange. Yeah,
When I read a book in Spanish, I understand everything it's saying, and I know all of it. But then when I go to speak, it's like I only have a certain quantity of words that come to me like this.
I have that too, though. When I often say humorously, or attempting to be humorous, that writing is my first language and speaking is my second language. Because if you read my writing, you go, oh, this is a very articulate person.
Oh, yeah.
You listen to me talking, you're like, what? What are you trying to say, Yeah. It's two completely different things. I could sit here very quickly, write something that is very clear and concise. Yeah. But when I just speak, it doesn't work that way.
So that's something that I think about a lot because of texting. Because when I text, I sound like what I think I want to sound like all the time. Oh. And then I go to talk, and I'm like, I wouldn't have said that if I was texting. Or that's not like the way I wanted to say that. So and I don't know if that could very possibly be a whole generation thing. It's not just me, but.
Well, I don't know, because I'm a different generation, and
and you experience the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, if I ever wanted someone to really know something about me, I would love to write it to them and have them read it. When I want to really express my emotions, writing is where I feel more comfortable.
Well, here's the hypothesis. It may be how you learn these things. Yeah. I learned to write from reading. Mm-hmm. So I read books written by people that really had gift with language, were very articulate, knowledgeable. So I write the way I read. Right. I speak the way I learned to speak from people talking to me.
Yeah, they're two different things.
Completely different thing. It's like a second language. It really is like a second language.
I've never I guess I have thought about it that way, but I've never heard it out loud, put into words correctly. But I definitely think about that a lot.
I think that's probably true. So when you're bilingual or trilingual or whatever, your facility with whatever language it is depends on where you learned it and how you practiced it
Right.
with that person. So if you grew up around linguists
Right.
all the time, who were, then you would speak like that, and then
Right,
you'd write
right.
like that, and
I
but
definitely, yeah.
yeah, so we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
what this
No,
has to do with
it's
anything.
making me think a lot. That's why I'm
Uh-huh.
not talking a lot, because I'm thinking a lot. I'm trying to think
Uh-huh.
back to how. Well, the thing is, Spanish was never read to me. I've never learned Spanish in a classroom, ever. Spanish was always mom and dad talking, me listening, me reciprocating.
Right.
So, I mean, that to me explains why I feel more comfortable in English, because I did learn English in a classroom. I did
Right.
elaborate on the language in a completely different way, and I had to put my thoughts into words for teachers, and that's why English makes more sense. But my Spanish isn't, and it's not so much when I say that it's not where I want it to be, that I am just not good at it, because I think I'm good at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that mentally I'm not processing it the way that I want it to be processed.
Yeah.
I want it to feel more natural and not like a different version of myself that I can hop into for a little bit. Sometimes it feels like that. It feels like I'm just like wearing some kind of like weird costume,
Yeah.
and then I just like take it. I don't know. That's another thing.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what we were talking about, fitting in and culture and all that sort of, just that, where do you belong when you're, that's one of the standard tropes that you hear all the time about immigrants, particularly from people who are kind of anti-immigrant, all up to really anti-immigrant, is that they're not assimilating. They come here and they just want to
That
be different.
is something that makes me really angry, because my entire life was assimilating. I could sit here and break it down for you. I came here, and as soon as I was old enough to understand that I wanted people to like me,
Mm-hmm.
I was old enough to understand that I needed to adapt to the people around me
Exactly.
to get them to like me, and that included taking a step out of my culture.
Right.
And I mean, now when I think about it, it really upsets me that I did that. But I did, step out of it for a while. And I think the ages that I was doing that, I stopped caring about Spanish, and I stopped caring about my culture, and I came out of touch with it now. And now, more than ever, I'm reconnecting with it in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it played a huge role. I was embarrassed almost that, when I bring someone to my house, I'm bringing them into a house with an environment different than what they probably have experienced. My family is very loud, and my mom's always cooking, and there's
Mm-hmm.
it's just that when you're a kid is embarrassing to have someone over. I just remember being embarrassed a lot as a kid, and that's really sad, because it was because of assimilating, because I wanted to appear American. I wanted to appear white, actually, to be honest with you, is what I wanted to appear like.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be accepted by white people.
Well, white as in whiteness, not white
Right,
as in
exactly.
skin tone.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
whoa.
You do have to explain that.
Bleaching my
Some
skin.
people don't get that. Yeah,
Yeah, my dreams came true because as I get older, I'm fading. I don't know if that happens to everybody, but like my
you're getting more pale.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was really pretty dark. I see pictures of me when I was little. I'm like, wow, I was really dark.
I remember when I was a kid, I would always stay tan.
Mm-hmm.
I hated it.
I did
hated
too.
it.
I was just
like, why?
dark.
Why is why is it?
And everybody else was orange, and I was like
I mean, still to
greenish
this
or whatever
day,
you call it.
I'm yellow while everyone else is pink. My pale is yellow, and
Mhm.
the people that I
Yeah, I don't
see
know why
also
I-
as pale are pink.
fish-like, I think
Yeah,
is what I like.
whatever.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's funny. I mean, it's not funny.
I know what you
guess
mean.
it's funny and not funny to talk about this because this is not a conversation I've had with very many people.
No.
Because 90% of the people I know have never experienced any of this.
So you don't talk about it.
Yeah, well, there's what
Yeah.
well, I say. I could say it to them. They'd be like, "Oh, that's
Well, and
interesting."
I try to explain it to people, but when you're explaining it to someone who hasn't experienced it, you're kind of just throwing ideas at them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same as sitting here talking to someone who has experienced the exact same thing and telling them what I feel, because things click off in your head and you're like, yeah, you're right.
That's it.
And
That's
you say things and I'm like, yeah, I've always felt that way. So it's refreshing for sure.
Yeah, it is. I should explore this more often on the
Yeah.
show, because it's something that I just know I don't think to talk about because I just grew up with it.
Actually, before we started talking, I was going to tell you that I wanted the topic that we talked about to be assimilation, and now we're talking about it.
Okay.
But then we
Okay.
didn't have time because the show started, but
Right.
that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about what it's like for immigrants to adapt to American culture while still staying true to their own culture. And, I mean, especially with, like, everything going on with, like, refugees and stuff now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. Assimilation is obviously for some of us a conscious choice. In like your case, in my case, I think both,
Right.
which is interesting given your first generation, I'm second generation.
Yeah.
It was sort of a survival technique, and I think it is for older people as well. Like it probably was for your parents.
Oh.
They've probably assimilated more than you
See,
are aware.
I've internalized a lot of things because of it, but they went through things that I never went through, will never have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because as an adult, not being able to communicate what you need to communicate to maintain a family, they've experienced people saying things to them that have never been said to me, like, this is America, speak English, things like that.
Yeah.
I've gotten that in a very like microaggression type way. It's kind of like they slide it in there, but never the way that it's up front with my parents, because they both have accents. And I've seen it kind of like fade. Like my dad, for example, he really cares about his accent. He wants people to listen to him talk and to look past his accent and to just understand him. So when people don't understand him, sometimes he doesn't see that someone just maybe didn't hear him, or maybe someone, the way he worded it was a little weird. He completely says, I have an accent, this person doesn't understand me.
Yeah.
So he works really hard at English, and it's incredible to see, actually, because learning another language at that age is a lot harder than it is when you're my age, yeah. And with my mom, I think
I struggle with it.
I think she's satisfied with the level of English that she has, and she's not too... The thing, though, is she has such a vibrant personality that to her, it's like, people just think she's cute always.
Your mom sounds very adaptable, like, well, whatever, I'll make the best of it.
It's exactly how she is. She's just like, oh, okay, this is how things are, we're going to go with it.
Yeah.
And my dad isn't like that.
Yeah.
So...
Well, she's lucky, because that's a good way to be.
But, I mean, thinking about them having to learn English, and seeing where they are now is very inspiring. It's definitely something that I think about all the time, because their assimilation was for us. They were doing it for the sake of a family. I was doing it because it was part of growing up.
Yeah. I mean, you do that. Actually, that's part of growing up for everybody, is learning, you've got your inner life, and then you learn from your peers and whatever, how people, whoever we are.
Back to the translation thing about culture that you were talking about earlier. It's interesting because you're saying that your parents try to translate a culture to you.
Yeah.
I felt like I was translating American culture to them the entire time I was growing up. I was like, no, like, here you can do that and it's okay. Or like, here, this is how they do it. Like, this is normal here. And it was like little things. It was mostly when I started like hanging out with people. I was like, here it's normal if you like stay at someone's house. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to not be okay. Here it's okay if I stay out until 12 o'clock at night. I mean, little things like that to them were just...
12-year-olds drink, smoke, and drive cars. I mean, everybody
Mom,
does it.
it's normal.
Come on.
Well, I just kind of remembered when my mom was learning English and she didn't know it.
Uh-huh.
And I stole crayons when I was in kindergarten from one of my classmates.
You want to admit this on the air?
Yeah.
People are listening to this.
I don't know if she knows, actually. So maybe she'll hear it. But they said, they found out it was me because they looked through all our backpacks. And they were like, we're going to have to talk to your mom. And I remember, even though I was like 5 years old, I was like, it doesn't matter because Mom doesn't know English.
Yeah, that's right.
And so Mom came and I translated my own version of the story and made it seem a lot worse than it was. And at that age, I was already manipulating language barriers.
You're
and
evil.
Yeah, I know.
No,
But I think about that a lot. I think about it all the time.
Well, no, but that's how, I mean, it's all a part of adapting, is figuring out how to make your world work.
Right. But part of that for me was culture and language. Because kids
Yeah.
do that. They do that. But I was doing it through a culture and through a language, which is, yeah. So I think about that. Definitely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I've got something on you now.
You can use that against me. Yeah.
Yes,
She steals
I've got
crayons,
something.
and she will try to lie to you.
Watch
about
your crayons. And when she's translating,
Don't listen to the
don't
words she says.
trust it.
Well, actually, so I started interpreting for the school district this year,
Uh-huh.
and I loved it. I loved it. But I was definitely, like, nervous that some word was going to be used, and I was going to have no idea how to translate it. But it went really well. It's for, like, for parent-teaching conferences and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So the thing, though, is I've noticed sometimes things in English that go on for hours take like 2 seconds to translate in Spanish, and the other way around.
Yeah.
So then you have that like doubt of silence when you're translating, where the person's like, did they actually translate everything? And I'm like, I promise I did. Yeah. Translating was, I really liked it, though. I did, which is why I want to learn Spanish to the best of my potential so that I can do that more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like translating from English to Spanish more than I like translating from... I like translating from Spanish to English more than I like translating from English to Spanish, though. Because if someone's talking to me in Spanish and I process it, I can just blurt English out at you because I already understood
it's
it.
easy.
But hearing English and then having to put it into Spanish is harder. It's
Oh, that
definitely
makes
harder.
sense. That makes sense.
That's where I get kind of like weird about it. Also, well, a lot of the times, jokes don't always translate the way,
no.
and that's just awkward for everyone because then one person's laughing and the other one's like, "Did you tell them my joke?" And I'm like, "No, you don't understand."
I told them.
It's
They
not
don't
fun.
think
It's
it
not
was
funny.
Not even close to funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we are actually rapidly
Yeah.
approaching the end of our time. We've got a
Wow, we
couple
just talked for
minutes
an
left.
hour.
Yes, we did.
That's crazy.
That's how the show goes. We just
Yeah,
kind of get
that's
here
why I
and
like it. That's
blah,
why
blah,
I
blah.
like it a lot.
Well, you're
I
welcome
definitely
to,
like it.
to come back
Yeah,
anytime.
yeah,
and,
for sure.
And
I like that we didn't like have a structure or anything. We kind of just went at it and ended up covering things that I wanted to cover.
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, so, yeah, 3 minutes. That's kind of a weird, I mean, if we
A
start
weird time
talking
gap.
some
Yeah. Yeah. What do we do?
more. So are there any upcoming events that you know about that I don't, something that's going on somewhere?
I don't know. I feel like every day there's a new event.
It seems like it.
It used to be like, oh, there's an event like 3 weeks from now, and you planned for that. Now it's like every single day there's like a new thing, which I love. I like it a lot. But
Well, it's an
you
exciting
don't always
time.
go with your schedule and stuff like that.
It's unfortunate that it's exciting for the reasons
Right.
it's exciting
Yeah.
for, but it is an exciting time
Yeah,
for it.
that's something that's frustrating is the
Yeah.
positive things that are coming from an extremely negative thing.
Yeah, well, I suppose we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, that would not be a good time. A good thing to start talking about now.
Right. So, well, you have been listening. If you have been listening, and if you haven't, then you won't know that I'm saying this, so it doesn't matter anyway. But if you have been listening, you have been listening to CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I hope you will tune in next time, whenever that may be, for more scintillating discussion, intelligent talk, and whatever we come up with. But anyway, hopefully we'll see you then. Bye-bye.